My second call-out analysis for the men's open. That'll probably be dropping tomorrow, but I don't know, we'll see. I haven't started it yet. In any case, this has been the Tominator signing out, and I'll be back. It's in Terrence Ruffin and Wesley Visitors. And I'll put the names underneath them once the camera pans back around to the front and they reposition. So right here in the front double, I'm going with Wesley. That's who grabbed my attention the most, with all that height and mass through the lats. Good arms as well, and some really solid separation through the thighs. Plus, he looks probably the most polished here from the front. After that, I would go with one of these two on the outsides, Alex or Michael. Probably Alex for the more exaggerated taper. I like Fabian's outline here, second from the left, and he's got the best quads in the picture, but the upper body looks just a little bit softer than the others. Terrence is last in this pose. Sorry guys, I never truly understood what the judges saw in him beyond the immaculate posing and back shot, because he's given up so much size, and his arms continue to remain a major weak point. The legs are great, but the upper body is the least impressive out of everyone right now. It's the same thing in the side chest. Ruffin is getting dwarfed. And to make matters worse, he looks smooth also. This has got to go to one of the tall guys beside him. They both fill it out well and look very comparable here. Probably I'd go with Fabian because his pecs sit a little nicer and he's showing a bit more detail there upstairs through the obliques. I also prefer his coloring for what it's worth. But Wesley brings out some nice striations in the outer glute. After that, it's Alex Cambronero on the left. Best arms in the shot, and that rear delt is popping. He shows some excellent density here. Turning around, this is where Terrence starts making a comeback, because he was a lot sharper from behind. The glutes are diced, and the back packs an incredible amount of detail. So despite the size disparity, I think you gotta give it to him. After that, I actually like Michael there on the right, because he shows some of the best muscularity throughout the back, especially in the lower half with those rigid spinal erectors. And the glutes and hamstrings are peeled. This is where Wesley starts to fall off because his lower half looks way off here from behind, virtually zero definition, so in spite of all that impressive upper body mass, he may even have to be bumped down to last in this one. The ab and thighs, another strong shot for Terrence. He always displays a great X-frame in this one, with some of the best abs and thighs in the picture. Wesley looks good in the conventional ab shot, but I'm not that crazy about his vacuum. His ribcage looks oddly sort of jagged, and it's not that aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. This overemphasis on vacuums is actually a little bit of a pet peeve for me with this division. It's like, look, just because you're going for a more classic look doesn't mean you're obligated to hit a vacuum. Not all old school bodybuilders did it, and I just think some of these guys need to be a little more self-aware in terms of what suits them. Now, I'm not saying the vacuum is a weak shot for Wesley, because his lats and serratus look outstanding here, but more so with some of these other guys like Alex and Michael. I don't feel like this is doing very much for him. So after Terrence, I probably would go with Wesley in the end because of his taper and for having the most separated quads of the group. And in the classic pose of their choice, this is always hard to judge because it's apples and oranges and becomes very subjective. My eyes right now are being drawn to Fabian simply because of his structure and that he looks the most polished. Wesley looks elegant in that Arnold-style twisting biceps, but his conditioning suddenly disappears. Alex and Michael are striking interesting poses, but Terrence's side try for me is a bit too mundane. I've said this before, but considering that he is one of the most visionary posers of our time, how he settles for a simple mandatory is, well, it's a missed opportunity in my opinion. Come on, Terrence, where's your creativity? That twisting back one's a little better, but it sort of seemed like an afterthought and not his main choice. Okay, so of this group, if we're being honest, I think Terrence was kind of gifted that 6th place. Despite finishing as high as 2nd in the past, I don't see all the hype. He got owned pretty badly in the first 2 poses, and did not stand out at all in that last one, so even though he probably won the ab and thigh and the back double, I felt that others were more well-rounded and deserving here. Anyway, that's enough time for this group. On to the second call-out. This one featured 3rd to 5th place in Urs Kalasinski, Brian Ansley, and Mike Sommerfeld, respectively. This was actually the most competitive comparison, in my opinion. So, in the front double bi, it's gotta be Brian. He blows them out of the water in the biceps department, and has a great tricep sweep and taper as well. The legs are looking a little flat and depleted, however. Sure, I've seen him fuller than this before, but even so, it's good enough for the win here. Urs is presenting this beautifully. Very classic-looking stance and some great polish on his physique. It's just a shame that his arms are so undersized, because he actually has the best torso here, and looks very Haney-esque, with those lats flaring out like a cobra hood from that tiny sucked-in waist. Mike, for his part, looks big and powerful. Unfortunately, the conditioning up top wasn't quite there, and his coloring and lack of posing oil is really hurting him. This is such an easy fix to make. Just oil up a bit more backstage and get a darker tan. That would have gone a long way to improving his presentation. Still, he's got the best wheels of the three from the front. Imagine for a second if you could take Breon's arms, Ur's torso, and Mike's legs and combine them all into one. That would be the ultimate front double. Not even C-Bum is topping that. Okay, yeah, so unfortunately for Mike, I've got to put Urs in second because of those flaws I just mentioned, even though Mike is totally capable of beating him from a muscularity and proportion standpoint. In the side chest, this is also Breon. So much detail and muscle maturity, and great balance from head to toe. Urs has a thicker chest maybe, but it's not as detailed. His shoulders also impressive, but the arms, once again, are his Achilles heel. He looks a little too bottom heavy here with those massive legs. Really good conditioning though, he's just got to bring up the arms, and this would be a phenomenal shot for him. Mike is looking thick and balanced once again, and is showing some nice definition downstairs, but he sort of shoots himself in the foot with that undercooked tan. Wow, great Christmas tree from Breon there. Love how he's really getting into the holiday spirit. And good luck beating him from the back. It's too bad we didn't get to see him stand next to Bumstead in this one, because I don't think even Chris could match this kind of development through the back. He might overpower Ansley in terms of width, and edge him up downstairs, but it's a moot point for now. So after Breon, I am really digging the muscularity of Mike. He's fully developed, and I also love that he actually brings some fullness to the table. I'm really growing tired of how seemingly every classic physique competitor is ultra lean and depleted, but with little uniqueness or wow factor, beyond simply how ripped they are. Not everyone has to resemble a Frank Zane or Lee Labrada 2.0. Where are the Arnolds and Sergios? Where are the Lee Haneys or Robbie Robinsons in this division? To my eyes, Mike is like the modern-day Matt Mendenhall. Not quite as tall, and more quads over calves, but exceptionally well put together, massive build, just needs to figure out how to dial it in 100% and boom, he'll be an instant contender. That's my prediction. If he doesn't make top 2 or 3 within the next couple years, he's not living up to his potential, period. Anyway, despite making some improvements, Urs is still kind of weak through the back, so I'd have him in third, but this is definitely better than last year. The ab and thigh / vacuum and thigh goes to Urs, with Mike in second. And check out those washboard abs on Sommerfeld. Perfectly symmetrical. Just incredible genetics for this kid. The sky's the limit for him. Breon is another example of a guy who probably shouldn't be busting out a vacuum. Doesn't really add anything in my opinion, so he finishes with a bit of a whimper here after a very strong start. Coincidentally, they all opt for the same signature shot, so this is interesting because now we can compare directly. Again, on a structural level, Mike kills it, but he has to be last because of how smooth everything looks. Breon's got the best biceps by a mile, of course, but overall, Urs probably takes it despite the smaller arms. His coloring and polish is like the exact opposite of Mike's. It's just flawless, so that propels him ahead. But just look at that lat spread from Sommerfeld. He is so dang wide and powerfully built. That's how you finish strong. I am super impressed with this guy. He's the most exciting newcomer to Classic, if you ask me. Urs hits a pretty good lat spread of his own, but doesn't really hold it. Overall, then, I would have had Breon coming out on top of this group. Don't agree with Urs finishing third. He should have been fourth at best. And Mike was only held back due to inexperience. He was like an unpolished statue or an unwashed sports car. All the parts are there, but it's just missing those finishing touches. So 5th place was justified. Okay, and now we finally arrive at the top 2, featuring the uber-popular Brazilian Ramon and the 3-time current champ Chris Bumstead, who needs no introduction. So in this first pose, it's Bumstead all day. Crazy lat flare, insanely large ribcage, great quads with some nice separation and vascularity. The only thing you could really ask for would be some better biceps, because Chris's bis are genetically short and not peaky. Ramon looks great in his own right, with some exceptionally long-bellied triceps and forearms, but he comes up well short in the torso area. In the side chest, this is lights out. I will say it right now, Chris Bumstead has the best side chest in the world. Yes, let that sink in for a moment. Now, I'm not suggesting that he could just walk onto the open stage and beat the likes of Nick Walker. He would get utterly destroyed in terms of thickness and mass. What I mean is that in regards to structure and aesthetic appeal, nobody's surpassing this. Everything just fits together so harmoniously. The way his pecs sit, all the striations there, the far arm and shoulder, the overall thickness upstairs and the size and definition through the legs. This is absolutely statuesque, and even Arnold himself would envy this side chest pose. Sure, maybe in terms of the chest and biceps in isolation, you give it to the Austrian oak, but not in its totality when you factor in the lower body. That said, Ramon is amazing in this one too. The meaty forearms are like the second coming of Gunnar Rosbo. If you guys don't know who that is, look him up, because that's what Ramon is bringing that nobody else in this division can match. I mean, Buddy looks like he could legit bend metal pipes with his bare hands. He's very thick and conditioned and balanced, but it's still not quite good enough. Maybe with a bit more pec striations and a sharper glute ham tie-in, I don't know, maybe then he might be matching Chris, but as it is, this pose is the closest he's going to get. Because from the back, to no one's surprise, it is lights out, game over. Bumstead is on another level. The lats and glutes alone are just too much for Ramon to deal with. I don't think this needs any further explanation. The ab and thigh is close when they're executing it conventionally, but when C-Bum shifts into the arms overhead vacuum, it's finished. This has been his calling card since day one, and it remains one of his best signature shots. Nobody in Classic is messing with this. And lastly, in the final pose of their choice, I really like Ramon going for the crucifix here. That's ambitious. It's a super hard shot to pull off, but he's doing it. I think the upper arms need to come up just a bit to balance out those mighty forearms, and his taper could use some improvement also, but this is totally respectable. But Bumstead in this one is just too much yet again. The lat flare, the quads, the delts, the serratus and waistline, it's all outstanding. And now when they both launch into this twisting back double by, it's like a big brother, little brother type scenario. Good night, Ramon. Thanks for coming out. If we're being honest, though, Chris's glutes are actually a little much right now. Most women would kill for a booty that round. But make no mistake, the thickness through the upper back is Arnold-esque, and he crushes this shot. Okay, so for some reason, the judges put them through the rounds again. I suspect this was purely for the fans, because if any judge is still undecided at this point, they should be fired. This wasn't even close. And that's no knock against Ramon. He looks sensational. It's simply a testament to how transcendent Chris Bumstead really is. This guy just won his 4th title in a row, and is showing no signs of slowing down. I'm going off memory here, but this may very well be his best package to date. I saw on Instagram some account dubbing him the Ronnie Coleman of Classic, which makes sense from a domination standpoint, but even then, it's not accurate. If you recall, Ronnie in his 4th win almost lost to Jay Cutler back in 2001, so he was barely hanging on by a thread. Phil Heath and Dorian Yates likewise had controversial calls within their first few years as champion. To me, the more obvious comparison is with Lee Haney, who was way more classic than Ronnie ever was, and pretty much maintained a stranglehold throughout his entire reign, right up until the last year or two before he retired. I could see C-Bum doing the same, because with this victory, he's only further distancing himself from the pack. Soak it in, people, because we are witnessing history in the making here. So that's my thoughts on the 2022 Classic Physique Olympia. Let us know how you saw it in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my second call-out analysis for the Men's Open. That'll probably be dropping tomorrow, but I don't know, we'll see. I haven't started it yet. In any case, this has been the Tominator signing out, and I'll be back.